I call this school safety and security committee meeting of the Magnolia Independent School District to order. Let the record show that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, and that our committee members are present. Is there any audience participation, Ms. Hinkleman? Okay. So, y'all have agendas? Anybody need an agenda? All right, so we should move pretty fast through this, but I'll follow the script. But if you do have questions, just please stop me. I'll ask if you have questions at the end of each agenda item, but feel free to raise your hand. You can stop me if you have any questions. So a quick update on the physical safety of the campuses. That's a big topic for our safety and security meeting. So fencing, you may have noticed that there is quite a bit of fencing has gone up at most of our elementary schools, if not all at this point. You'll notice that it's a nice touch for the wrought iron, especially for the public-facing parts of our campuses. So again, that was a law or a requirement put out by the state that said you have to have 6-foot non-scalable fencing around campuses. So the wrought iron is non-scalable and 6 foot. The chain link fence that you see around playgrounds and in areas that's not really public-facing, or you'll see the slats, the colored slats that go through that, and the reason those slats are there is because, of course, chain link is scalable, and the slats make it non-scalable. So that's all 6-foot fencing and trying to make just the surrounding areas of our campuses safer. Questions on fencing? And we will continue with our junior highs, high schools, everywhere we can. All right, security vestibules. So we are working on trying to make sure we have those in place at every single school. That is a challenge in some of our, you might say, older buildings that weren't constructed the same as some of our newer buildings. Like if you walk in Bear Branch Elementary and Nickel Sawmill, they have the same construction, so they'll be able to have sort of the same sort of security vestibules, and that's just a secure entry for people to walk in and stay until they're able to be checked in. So right now we have a lot of open access into our campuses, which we want to continue with, but we also want to make sure if we can find a happy medium to where people can still walk in, feel nice and welcome, but also we have some security in the building and people can't just walk into doors without us knowing it. So schools like Williams Elementary, they pose some problems. Line can pose some problems in how you orchestrate all that and engineer it. But Mr. Bruner is kind of a genius with that kind of stuff, and he'll do a good job with that. You'll notice some creativity if you go to Magnolia Junior High. You'll notice how they have the vestibule sort of set up right there, where you have to go to the window, sort of like you're at a bank, give your ID and be checked in, and then you're allowed into the building. Because it's hard, because you walk right into that school and there's a hallway and children can be moving back and forth. So creativity like that is what we'll see in some of our older buildings like Williams and Line and so forth. Any questions about that? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Some of the buildings have them, but some of them do not. And so we're in the process of making sure every school has them. I think our high schools were done several years ago at this point. Yes, sir. Some of the elementaries. Yeah. And I think it will be the model in like our new intermediate, new junior high. You'll see that we follow some of the same models as we have in some of our elementaries, but we'll have to like retrofit some of the security vestibules in like Magnolia Intermediate, for instance, to make it, again, welcoming, but still safe at the same time. Any other questions? Door access control, I'm coming along. Brad, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, last time we talked, you've got a process for that and making sure that.
Targeted for summertime completion, for the company to come out and finish up in June.
Okay. So door access control, just make sure we put security codes on our exterior doors, and that we're obviously careful with those security codes, so only certain people can get in, sort of a keyless entry, but it does increase the security. And then PA systems, again, this is not a promise of anything, but we've noticed that some of our PA systems could use a little upgrading, because if in case you have an emergency, sometimes that PA system is the best way to get everyone's attention. And so if it is not working properly or it's not getting to every classroom, that can pose some problems. So we'll continue to update those PA systems in the schools that need it. Questions about that?
So those, we're waiting on the equipment to arrive. We've ordered all the equipment, for all the campuses minus the two intermediates that already have the new system.
Mhm.
And as soon as that stuff arrives, we've got a priority of schools that they're gonna start with, and they'll start working through. As soon as that stuff arrives, probably start in the summertime, work through it, may bleed into the beginning of next school year.
Yeah.
But the company's ready, just waiting on the equipment.
Okay. Awesome. Other questions or comments about the PA system? Okay. The next item you should see is a proposed anonymous alert system change to Lightspeed. So let me decipher that for you. So right now, our secondary campuses have a program called Anonymous Alerts, which allows anyone to anonymously alert a campus of any kind of threat or dangerous situation or bullying or really anything. Some of the challenges we find with that is it is anonymous. So if there's not a lot of details or it's hard to follow up, you can't exactly contact that person and say, hey, you know, what's going on here? Can you give me more information? But it is a good tool for our secondary campuses to have for parents or students or community members to be able to alert a campus about something that might be dangerous. Our elementary schools have stuff on the websites where parents can go in and notify campus administration anonymously if they have, if they know of anything threatening or there's a bullying claim or anything like that. We do pay for that service. And we also use a company called Lightspeed, and I've talked about that before with this committee. Lightspeed monitors all of the web traffic that is on our server and can notify campuses and does notify campuses if there's any threatening searches or phrases used, whether that be harm to others or self-harm or anything else that might be threatening to a campus, and then that's sent to campus administration and they can address it. Lightspeed is a company that also has possibly an anonymous alert system, just like the one that we use. Except that the one we use, we're paying for an additional cost, and Lightspeed would give it to us with the cost that we're already paying them to perform the services they already perform. We have to make sure that it is truly anonymous and then it will work for us, but that is a proposed change that we made. I think Brad brought that to the committee's attention, so that's something that we're definitely going to look at. Questions about that? All right. State door audits, real quick. We had 2 campuses since the last board meeting that had visits from Region 6 to come and check the exterior doors and make sure that the doors have been monitored by our SROs as we say that they are. There were no findings, which is a good thing. We have not had a campus with any findings. I want to say that every campus has been audited at this point by Region 6, who they're an arm of the state in that aspect of they come out and for the state and they do our door checks. So no findings is a good thing. Our campuses are doing a great job of making sure those exterior doors are locked. And our SROs do a good job of checking every exterior door every single morning and looking at our interior doors too. I think the requirement is doors are checked once a week. We do them every day, probably multiple times a day. So thank you to Lieutenant and his crew for that. Questions about state door audits? All right, last item, just a review of our SRO staffing. So we lost 2 officers to other jobs. So Sergeant Park, Deputy Crabtree, they both left at some point this year. We've been able to replace one of, I guess you would say probably Sergeant Park's position with an officer. We filled his sergeant role internally and then filled that role with another officer who I think just started and is in training at the moment. And we've yet to fill the other officer position, but we have a truancy officer that fills in when officers aren't on campuses, and then Lieutenant Carley goes to campuses and fills in if there's an officer that's not going to be present that day, whether it's because it's from a staffing issue or someone's sick or out or for whatever reason. They'll make sure that we have an officer presence on campus. Our sort of Hail Mary attempt would, we have 2 officers at each high school. There are times maybe we pull one of them to go to a campus because our goal is to make sure that we have an SRO present on every single campus every single day. So we're looking forward to filling that, and Lieutenant Carley and his crew does a good job of finding good officers for us. And so I have no doubt he'll find that next one for us. Questions about SRO staffing? Any questions? All right, any questions that weren't asked during the rest of the agenda? Anything? All right. If there are no further questions or need for further discussion, I need a motion that we adjourn this meeting. Motion by Ms. Hope, second by Susie. All in favor? Great. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.